Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to today's presentation. We will be exploring applied anatomy for First Year B.Sc Nursing students. This session is part of the KUHS syllabus. The focus today is on introducing you to anatomical terms and the organization of the human body. We'll briefly go over the basic concepts that will form the foundation for your studies in nursing. So, let's get started and make this a productive and engaging session. Let's begin by understanding that anatomy is the study of the structure of the human body. When we talk about the anatomical position, we're describing a standard stance, standing upright, facing forward, with arms at the sides and palms facing forward. This position serves as a reference point for describing locations and directions on the body. Now, relative to this position, we use specific terms to describe where things are located or how they relate to each other. For example, anterior or ventral means the front of the body, while posterior or dorsal refers to the back. These terms help us pinpoint exact locations. Moving on, superior means towards the head, and inferior means towards the feet. Think of them as vertical directions, up and down along the body's axis. The median is the midline that divides the body into equal right and left halves, and lateral describes a position away from this midline, towards the sides. In terms of proximity, proximal indicates something closer to the trunk or point of attachment, while distal means farther away from the trunk. These are especially useful when describing limbs. When we talk about depth, superficial is towards the surface, and deep is away from the surface, deeper inside the body. There are also positional terms. Prone means lying face down, and supine means lying face up, which are common positions in clinical settings. For the hands and feet, palmar refers to the palm of the hand, and plantar to the sole of the foot. All these terms provide a precise language that helps us describe and understand the human body's structure clearly and consistently, which is essential in both education and practice. Let's talk about the anatomical position. This is really the starting point for understanding how we describe the body in health and medicine. When we refer to the anatomical position, we're talking about a standardized way of positioning the body. The person stands upright, facing forward, with feet flat on the ground and about shoulder-width apart. The arms are at the sides, and the palms are facing forward, with the thumbs pointing away from the body. This position is crucial because it provides a consistent frame of reference. No matter who we're talking about or which part of the body we're focusing on, using this position helps us communicate clearly and avoid confusion. Think of it as the universal language for describing anatomy. It underpins all the directional terms and movements we'll be discussing later. So, whenever you hear about the anatomical position, just remember, it's the baseline, the standard pose that helps us map out and understand the body in a clear, precise way. This concept ties into the overall theme of learning how the body is organized and how we can describe its parts accurately. Let's take a closer look at the anatomical planes that we use to divide the body for reference. First, we have the axial, transverse, or horizontal plane, which divides the body into upper, or superior, and lower, or inferior, parts. This plane is really useful when we want to look at sections of the body from a top-down or bottom-up perspective. Next, there's the sagittal or vertical plane, which divides the body into right and left halves. If the division is exactly down the middle, it's called the median or mid-sagittal plane, but if it's off-center, it's just a sagittal plane. This helps us visualize structures that are on the right or left sides. Then we have the coronal or frontal plane, which separates the body into front or anterior and back or posterior parts. This plane is often used when looking at front or side views, especially in imaging like X-rays. Finally, there's the oblique plane, which is a bit different because it cuts across the body diagonally. It's useful for viewing structures at an angle that other planes might not capture as clearly. Understanding these planes is fundamental because they give us a standardized way to describe locations and movements within the body. They connect directly to how we study anatomy and interpret medical images, helping us communicate precisely about different parts and their relationships. Let's take a closer look at anatomical planes. These planes are imaginary lines that divide the body into different sections, helping us describe locations and movements precisely. The most common planes you'll hear about are the sagittal, coronal, and transverse planes. The sagittal plane divides the body into left and right parts, and when it runs exactly down the middle, it's called the median or mid-sagittal plane. The coronal plane, also known as the frontal plane, divides the body into front and back sections. Lastly, the transverse plane, or horizontal plane, cuts across the body to create upper and lower parts. These planes are fundamental because they give us a common language to describe movements, injuries, and anatomy accurately. Understanding these planes helps us visualize how the body moves and functions in space, which is essential for a wide range of health and movement sciences. So, connecting this to the overall theme, knowing these planes enhances our ability to analyze movement patterns, diagnose issues, and plan effective treatments or interventions. Let's go over some key body movements that are essential for understanding how our joints work. First, we have flexion, which is simply bending a joint, like when you bend your elbow or knee. Opposite to that is extension, which straightens the joint back out. Next, we have abduction, which involves moving a limb away from the midline of the body, such as raising your arm to the side. Conversely, adduction moves the limb toward the midline, like bringing your arm back down. Then there's medial rotation, which turns a limb toward the midline, and lateral rotation, which turns it away from the midline. These rotational movements are crucial for joint mobility and function. Moving down to the feet, inversion turns the sole inward, while eversion turns the sole outward. These movements help us adapt to different surfaces and maintain balance. When we talk about the palms, supination is when the palm faces upward, like when you hold a bowl of soup. Pronation does the opposite, turning the palm downward. In terms of foot movements again, plantar flexion points the toes downward, as if pressing a gas pedal, whereas dorsiflexion lifts the foot upward, like when you lift your toes off the ground. Finally, there's circumduction, which is a circular movement at a joint. Think of drawing a circle with your arm or leg. All these movements are fundamental for our daily activities and athletic performance, and understanding them helps us appreciate how versatile and complex our body's joint functions are. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's take a closer look at the basic building blocks of life, the cell. The cell is truly the fundamental structural and functional unit of all living organisms. Think of it as the smallest unit that can carry out life processes on its own. Now, the structure of a cell has a few key components that are essential for its function. First, there's the cell membrane, which is like the cell's outer boundary. It acts as a gatekeeper, regulating what enters and exits the cell, ensuring the right balance of substances inside. Next, we have the cytoplasm, which is the fluid part of the cell. It contains various organelles that perform specific functions necessary for the cell's survival and activity. Then there's the nucleus, often called the control center of the cell. It houses the DNA, the genetic blueprint that guides all the activities within the cell and determines how the organism develops and functions. Understanding cell division is equally important. Mitosis is the process by which cells divide for growth and repair. It produces two identical daughter cells, maintaining the same genetic information. On the other hand, meiosis is a special type of division that occurs in reproductive cells, or gametes. It halves the number of chromosomes, which is crucial for sexual reproduction, ensuring genetic diversity and stability across generations. So, in summary, the structure and division of cells are central to understanding how living organisms grow, develop, and reproduce, tying into the bigger picture of biology and life itself. Let's take a closer look at this cell structure diagram. As you can see, it highlights the key components that make up a cell, starting with the cell membrane, which acts as a protective barrier, controlling what enters and exits the cell. Inside, we see the cytoplasm, a gel-like substance where most of the cell's activities occur. The nucleus stands out as the control center, containing genetic material and directing cell functions. Surrounding the nucleus are the mitochondria, often called the powerhouses of the cell, responsible for energy production. Other components like the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus are involved in protein synthesis and processing. Recognizing these structures helps us understand how cells operate as the fundamental units of life, connecting to our overall theme of cellular function and health. Tissue, a group of similar cells working together to perform a specific function. Think of tissues as the building blocks of our body's structure and operation. There are several types of tissues, each with its own unique role. First, we have epithelial tissue, which covers body surfaces and lines internal cavities, acting as a protective barrier. Next is connective tissue, which provides support and binds other tissues together, like in bones, blood, and fat. Then there's muscular tissue, which is essential for movement, whether it's moving limbs or contracting the heart. Finally, nervous tissue transmits impulses, allowing communication within the body. It's important to understand that each tissue type has distinct characteristics, specific locations, and specialized functions. Recognizing these differences helps us appreciate how the body is organized and functions seamlessly as a whole. Let's take a closer look at the different types of tissue, as shown in this diagram. Tissues are groups of similar cells that work together to perform specific functions, and understanding these helps us see how the body is organized. We'll start with epithelial tissue, which lines the surfaces and cavities of organs, providing protection and involved in absorption and secretion. Next is connective tissue, which supports and connects other tissues and organs. Think of bone, cartilage, and blood as prime examples. Then we have muscle tissue, responsible for movement, whether it's the contraction of the heart or voluntary movements like walking. Finally, nervous tissue is essential for communication within the body, transmitting signals that coordinate actions and responses. By understanding these tissue types, we get a clearer picture of how complex biological systems function seamlessly together, which ties into the overall theme of how the body maintains homeostasis and health. Let's talk about membranes first. These are thin layers that cover surfaces or line cavities within the body. They serve as protective or functional barriers. There are different types of membranes, each with specific roles. Mucous membranes line open cavities like those in the digestive and respiratory systems. They help protect and moisten these passages. Serous membranes, on the other hand, line closed cavities such as the pleura around the lungs or the peritoneum in the abdominal cavity. They reduce friction between moving organs. Then we have synovial membranes, which line joint cavities and are crucial for smooth joint movement. Now, moving on to glands. Glands are specialized structures that secrete substances necessary for various bodily functions. There are two main types, exocrine and endocrine glands. Exocrine glands release their secretions through ducts, for example, sweat glands and salivary glands. These secretions usually serve to protect, lubricate, or assist in digestion. Endocrine glands are ductless. Instead of releasing substances onto surfaces, they secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream. These hormones regulate processes throughout the body, like growth, metabolism, and mood. Understanding these membranes and glands helps us see how the body maintains its internal environment and responds to external stimuli, which ties back to the overall theme of how our tissues and systems work together to keep us healthy. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's take a closer look at the different types of membranes. First, we have the lipid bilayer, which is the fundamental structure of most membranes. It's composed mainly of phospholipids arranged in two layers, providing a flexible yet selectively permeable barrier. Next, there are membrane proteins, which are embedded within or attached to the lipid bilayer. These proteins play crucial roles in transport, signaling, and structural support. Then, we also encounter glycoproteins and glycolipids, which are involved in cell recognition and communication. Understanding these components helps us see how membranes are dynamic and specialized, tailored to the needs of each cell. This diversity in membrane types and structures is essential for maintaining cellular function and integrity across different biological contexts. Understanding the major bony landmarks is crucial because they play a key role in assessment and various procedures. For example, when we look at the skull, landmarks like the frontal, temporal, and occipital bones help us identify specific regions and guide surgical or clinical interventions. Moving to the upper limb, bones such as the clavicle, humerus, radius, and ulna are easily palpable and serve as important reference points. In the thorax, the sternum and ribs form the main structural framework, which is vital for procedures like chest examinations or interventions. The lower limb includes major bones like the femur, tibia, fibula, and patella, each with recognizable surface landmarks that assist in diagnosis and treatment. Lastly, the vertebral column, composed of cervical, thoracic, and lumbar vertebrae, provides many surface landmarks that help us identify specific spinal levels. Recognizing these surface and bony landmarks is fundamental because they guide clinical assessments, procedures, and help us understand the anatomy more clearly in practice. This overall understanding ties into our broader goal of mastering anatomical localization for effective patient care. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Cartilage is a type of flexible connective tissue that plays a crucial role in providing support within our bodies. It's unique because it combines strength and flexibility, allowing it to cushion joints and maintain the shape of various structures. Now, when we talk about different types of cartilage, there are three main kinds we should focus on. First, there's hyaline cartilage, which is smooth and glassy in appearance. You'll find it lining the nose, covering the ends of our bones and the joints, and forming parts of the trachea. Its smooth surface helps reduce friction and allows for easy movement at joints. Next, we have fibrocartilage, which is known for being particularly strong and shock-absorbing. This type is found in areas that need to withstand heavy pressure, such as the intervertebral discs between our vertebrae. Its durability is essential for protecting our spine during movement and weight-bearing activities. Finally, there's elastic cartilage, which is very flexible. It's what gives our ears their shape and resilience, as well as forming the epiglottis, which covers the windpipe during swallowing. Its elasticity allows these structures to bend without damage. Understanding these types helps us see how cartilage supports different functions across the body, from cushioning and flexibility to strength. It ties into the overall theme of how our body's connective tissues are specialized to meet different needs. Let's take a closer look at the types of cartilage diagram. As you can see, this diagram illustrates the three main types of cartilage found in the human body. First, we have hyaline cartilage, which is the most abundant and provides smooth surfaces for joint movement. It's also found in the nose and trachea. Next is elastic cartilage, which contains more elastic fibers, making it more flexible. You'll find this in the ear and epiglottis. Lastly, there's fibrocartilage, which has dense collagen fibers, giving it great tensile strength, perfect for areas like the intervertebral discs and the knee menisci. Understanding these different types helps us appreciate how cartilage adapts to various functions and stresses throughout the body. This diagram really ties into the overall theme of how connective tissues support and protect our structures. Let's take a closer look at the different types of muscle tissue and their unique features. Skeletal muscle is voluntary, which means we control it consciously. It's also striated, giving it that striped appearance under the microscope, and it's attached to our bones, enabling movement. Moving on to smooth muscle, this type is involuntary, so we don't have to think about it to keep it working. It's non-striated, and you'll find it lining the walls of our organs, helping with functions like digestion and blood flow. Lastly, we have cardiac muscle. Like skeletal muscle, it's striated, but it's involuntary, which makes sense because our heart needs to beat automatically without us thinking about it. It's found only in the heart, and it features specialized structures called intercalated discs that allow the heart muscle cells to work together efficiently. Understanding these muscle types helps us appreciate how our body performs a wide range of functions seamlessly. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Now, let's explore the levels of structural organization in the human body. Starting at the very basic level, we have the chemical level, which includes atoms and molecules. These are the building blocks of everything, forming the foundation for more complex structures. Moving up, we reach the cellular level, where cells and their organelles work together to carry out specific functions. Cells are like the body's tiny factories, each with a specialized role. Next is the tissue level, which is made up of groups of similar cells that team up to perform a common task. Think of tissues as the organized teams that make body functions more efficient. Above that, we have the organ level, where two or more tissues collaborate to form organs. For example, the heart combines muscle tissue, connective tissue, and others to pump blood effectively. Then we come to the system level. Here, organs work together as part of larger systems, such as the circulatory or respiratory systems, coordinating activities vital for life. And at the highest level, we have the organism level, where all these systems operate in harmony, enabling the human body to function as a whole. Understanding these levels helps us see how complex and beautifully organized the human body truly is, with each level building on the previous one to support our overall health and function. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Understanding anatomical terms is really fundamental in nursing because it helps us communicate more accurately with our colleagues and patients. When we know exactly where an organ is or what a specific term refers to, it reduces confusion and ensures everyone is on the same page. It also plays a crucial role in locating organs and identifying abnormal findings during assessments. For example, if a patient reports pain in a certain area, knowing the precise anatomical location helps us determine what might be involved and what steps to take next. Furthermore, a good grasp of anatomy guides us in practical tasks like administering injections, dressing wounds, or positioning patients correctly. These procedures require precision, and understanding the anatomy ensures we're doing them safely and effectively. Lastly, this knowledge is vital for clinical assessments and nursing procedures overall. It forms the foundation for making accurate judgments about patient health and delivering quality care. So, mastering these terms really enhances our overall competence and confidence in nursing practice, aligning perfectly with our goal of providing safe, effective, and compassionate care.